All anti-government movements are not a cry for democracy. All anti-government movements do not lead to democracies. Some lead to a fractured nation, continued civil war, and the emergence of monsters like ISIS, Muslim Brotherhood, and their likes. The Arab Spring of the early 2010s was believed to lead the Middle East and North Africa into an era of democracy. The realities of today stand in stark contrast to the expectations of the movement at that time. In the name of democracy and freeing countries of dictatorships, Obama supported the Arab Spring. He wanted us to believe that the Arab Spring was a road to democracy. He wanted us to believe that sending troops to Syria was noble. It was not. It was all a big mistake, or a failed project, to be precise. Now, it is a fact that humans do not learn from history, and the statement has been proven true once again. Because Joe Biden has spun the globe and pinpointed another region to destabilize in the name of, democracy. And the alarming thing is that US troops could be thrown into yet another war that has nothing to do with them. Hi, and welcome to TFI Global, the foreign affairs and geopolitical analysis arm of the TFI Media Group. I am your host Shubhangi, and in this video I will tell you how Biden has turned to Sudan to start the war with Ethiopia after Djibouti said no. Let's begin. The US has significantly lost its edge over the Horn of Africa, which has become highly contested, with almost all major powers trying to control the corridor between the East and the West. Under Joe Biden, the US is following the Obama blueprint of the Arab Spring to destabilize the region and spur it into a season of civil wars, giving it an opportunity to gain hold of the strategic Horn of Africa. While its earlier attempts have been failing in the face of a combine of Djibouti, Eritrea, and Ethiopia, which stalled any adventurism from the US, the Biden administration has come up with another plan. This time, it has approached Sudan. As per reports, the US has appointed an ambassador to Sudan for the first time in 25 years, after Washington upgraded its diplomatic representation with Khartoum from charge d'affaires to ambassador. While Sudan has stayed away from the current crisis in Ethiopia, this action by the USA just after the short-lived military coup in Sudan tells us how Washington is making use of Sudan to fulfill its agenda after being denied passage by Djibouti for an intended attack on elected government of Ethiopia. Now, just recently, Washington was considering using its base in Djibouti to launch attacks on Ethiopian forces and assist the TPLF in its endeavor to capture the capital city of Addis Ababa. But Djibouti denied the US to use its territories for assault on other neighboring countries, leaving Washington a bit embarrassed. In such a situation, engaging Sudan, another neighbor of Ethiopia, with a history of conflict between tribes in the two nations, into supporting TPLF is a lucrative proposition. Given the history of tribal enmities at the bordering regions of Ethiopia and Sudan, with tribes like Amhara, Omoro, and Tigray having a history of conflict dating back decades, Sudan provides a strategically advantageous position. It can force Ethiopia into an uncomfortable two-front war situation, forcing it to divide attention between Sudan on its northwest and TPLF in the north. And if there was still any doubt left, the US commander of Combined Joint Task Force Horn of Africa, General William L. Zena, has also confirmed that the US was looking to intervene in Ethiopia if the situation worsens. However, the transition of Sudan from a non-entity to now actively engaging in the region needs scrutiny. Sudan faced a coup which was unusually very short-lived, and if the reports are to be believed, as soon as the military and the government reached an understanding, the coup was reversed. While the exact translation between the two parties cannot be specified, it is a fact that the policy of Sudan towards Ethiopia changed, leading to skirmishes and increase in humanitarian assistance to TPLF. Things became clear with the sudden US appointment of an ambassador to Sudan after 25 years. This is the definition of a transactional relationship, as a military intervention has most probably forced this change of heart. While the Sudanese military will get weapons and equipment from the US, Washington will be able to ensure that the Ethiopian government is weakened and subsequently sending the country and the region into a never-ending cycle of tribal civil war. Backed by the US, the Sudanese involvement from the northwest, as well as its support to the TPLF and the Oromo Liberation Army, another militant armed group of one of the largest tribes in the region, will create a situation where it will become difficult for Ethiopian forces to hold ground. While the combination of Ethiopia and Eritrea was making headwinds in countering the TPLF, the US, which wants to control the Horn of Africa, cannot accept these developments and has acted to reverse the trends. The friendly relations between Eritrea and Ethiopia is what stands in the way of the TPLF from defeating the government forces, and this was the reason for the US sanctioning the Eritrean army too. Now, as the US sets up its base in Sudan, it will be able to supply arms and ammunition to the TPLF and other regional tribal armed militias like OLA to resist Ethiopia's attempt to keep the country together. And if things escalate further, the US could also use Sudan to launch strikes on the Ethiopian government and break up the nation as we know it. So, the Biden administration is clearly itching to go to war in Africa. But will the American people allow it this time?